All right, partner, as we've discussed, we decided to take off the 4th of July week for a little bit of family time, but that does mean that there were several topics that we didn't have a chance to discuss one on one, and we got to do that in this episode.
Yeah, Bobby, we didn't get to dissect Lamar Jackson's personal workouts with wide receivers Zay Flower and Odell Beckham Jr. We also missed a big announcement from Mark Ingram and a bold statement from Patrick Queen.
Lots to get into. As always, I'm Bobby Trossett alongside my co host, Sarah Ellison. It is Tuesday, July 11th, and this is your morning Ravens update from Inside the Vault.
Oh, if you listened to yesterday's episode or our last one, you know that we knocked out a best, worse, or the same when we compared this year's defensive roster to last year's defensive roster. We will do the same thing today, but with the offensive side.
Plus, what is the best division in football? I think this is going to be a good conversation. And obviously, there's a strong argument to be made that the AFC North is looking down on everybody.
Yeah, we have all of that and more coming up. So thank you for waking up at the Morning Vault, where you get the most important Ravens news and opinions in about 30 minutes.
All right. So, as we've probably most of us have seen on at least one form of social media, one platform, Lamar's getting in some work with his wide receivers. And this is obviously sort of the ramp up stage to training camp and mandatory mini camp, OTAs, all that's now in the rearview mirror. So, as promised, Odell Beckham Jr. said that he would be getting together with his quarterback down in Florida. That's already happened. And Zay Flowers even talked about that as well with Lamar. And that they're wasting no time pre training camp, Sarah.
Yeah, no, it's exactly what Lamar said he was going to try to do. It's difficult to get everybody there at once, but then to get his two brand new wide receivers there at the same time. We were, I'm sure, looking at it from our respective vacations, and it's content that you want to see, in early July. So let's jump right into these suckers.
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of different clips here. And of course, for our audio only listeners, you can always hop on over to YouTube for the on camera version of this episode. We'll do our best to, give play by play. One clip actually has music over it. So that's this right here.
It was always tell me about the route first, and then he'll
And specifically, it's on the turf field there down in South Florida, we're presuming. And it's actually Odell kind of leading the charge, teaching Zay with Lamar looking on, which I think is cool because, Zay and some of these young guys look at Odell. I mean, even Lamar referred to him as a legend. These guys have been watching Odell for years. They're not that much younger, but he's been around the league for a while now. So I thought that was cool from, sort of a tutelage standpoint.
Yeah, I mean that clip right there again for the audio people. It was just the three of them sitting there talking, and as you said, OBJ was leading it. And in addition to helping Zay, it's kind of like just it's just these. As a quick disclaimer, okay, the three clips that we're going to show, we've only shown one of the three. We can't dig too deep into it. You know what I mean? It's like they do this type of stuff a million times a day when the whole team's together. This is like just us getting an inside look. So I don't want to dig too deep into it, but it is nice to get that inside look to see not only OBJ kind of giving some pointers to Zay, but just the three of them kind of collaborating together. You know what I mean? It's OBJ talking there, but it's like Lamar also hearing that. So he knows what's going in his wide receiver one's mind. So that's big. And so that next clip, can we play it a couple times? So I brought this one up and the next one. So this is a zoomed in version, and then we'll get a zoomed out version. This is probably my biggest takeaway. And again, yeah. So basically, these two videos, a zoomed in version of Zay Flowers doing an out route, and then it's a zoomed out version of the same thing doing an out route. So again, I'm sure Lamar throws these balls tons of times during practice, but as we know, there's going to be a bigger emphasis with Todd Monken and this new offense in which he wants to attack every blade of grass on the field. And so in the past, everybody says, oh, Lamar likes to throw down the middle. Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean that he can't throw to the outside. And so this was a little glimpse that it's like, okay, well, if Lamar and Zay or any of the other wide receivers can really perfect this, Bobby, it brings me memories of, I want to say like 2000, I'm trying to think 2011, 2012, maybe before then actually. But Joe Flacco was a young player and he had a veteran in Derek Mason. And the Ravens at that time, it was like head to head with the Steelers. I mean, at that time it always is, but Steelers just seemed to be dominant back then. And they played each other in the playoffs. And I remember like there wasn't a lot going on offense, but one thing they could for sure count on almost every single time, unstoppable, was Joe Flacco to Derek Mason on an out route. He'd get his two toes in, 2-minute drill, and then go out of bounds, stop the clock. And it was like the Steelers had a phenomenal defense then, and they just couldn't stop it. So I just like seeing that from those two, because I do want to see that next level of Lamar, that maybe it was just Greg Roman that held him out, or maybe it's just something he needs to work on. I don't know. But I want to see this out route so that they're attacking the outside of the field and defenders can't just cheat on the inside.
I don't think you can put a price tag on just like the chemistry that's being built in these kind of on their own time, one on one. I mean, maybe there's like Spence Fit there and some other guys that are overseeing it, that are kind of timing it and keeping the pace up and whatnot. But I mean, in Zay's case, Lamar is probably just trying to get him up to speed, on what the Batemans and the OBJs and the Duvernays and the Aguilars have already under their belts. But man, I'm not going to sit here and think that these aren't going to help their chemistry, right out of the gate. And so what I just been focusing in on with the zoomed out version of this is the timing and the footwork from Zay. You
Yeah.
know, everything is in sync. It's outside the numbers. It's on the money. But the quick, shifty footwork from Zay is something that we heard time and time again about coming out of Boston College. And it's again, I'm just essentially, for the audio only folks, I'm just going back and forth, replaying this one out route. But it is slick, it's quick, and it's about 3 seconds, Sarah. He gets down the line, it's shifty, it's quick, and bang, he's out of bounds, and the ball's right there when he turns his head. So,
Yeah.
that's clean.
Oh, Zay's clean. Zay is clean. And just imagine the more years in the league. uh, Can you say he's even going to get cleaner? Probably. He's going to sell these things and just completely fool his defenders. All right. Next piece of news that we missed. Well, maybe not news, but kind of a bold statement. So, there was a website that asked, which the website? Do we have the tweet? There was a website that asked.
PFF fantasy football.
PFF Fantasy Football asked, is Nick Chubb, so Browns running back Nick Chubb, they asked, is he a top 3 running back in the NFL? And Patrick Queen, quote, retweets it and simply puts number 1. So listen, there's some stud running backs, okay? There are some stud running backs. There's Josh Jacobs, who led the league last year, over 1,600 yards. Derrick Henry, who, by the way, Patrick Queen knows. He's gone up against him plenty of times, so he knows. And then Nick Chubb was number 3 in the league. But what I like about this is, to me, this is one of those things where, Bobby, it's kind of like you play it somebody twice a year, every year, and it becomes increasingly difficult to stop them. So I like the honesty and or I guess the respect that Patrick Queen gave to his division rival.
I like it too. Yeah. I also like the fact that we all know that J.K. Dobbins is one of the most fierce competitors out there, and we know he's always looking for motivation. I wouldn't be surprised if he used the bookmark feature on that
Yeah.
tweet and just made sure that it was available and ready to go come 2.5 weeks from now, because he might have something to say about that at training camp.
Oh, no doubt. And it's just, and then you want your running back like this, right? You want all your players where it's like, Hey, teammate, did you forget about me? But obviously, he's been injured the last 2 years. But yeah, we just know J.K. Dobbins' personality to this point. He's like, I'm number one in everything. So, speaking of running backs, one last piece of news that we missed is from a former running back from the 2019 season. So, he had an impact. Mark Ingram. Now, I don't know if this means that he's officially retiring, but it is certainly going in that direction for those that may have missed it like us. He put out a joint statement with Fox Sports, and he's going to be in the football studio with them for the 2023 season. And they put out a joint statement that reads, he says, I can't wait to feel the energy and excitement every Saturday. He's doing college football, by the way, alongside some of the most talented and entertaining names in our sport at the biggest games in college football. Close quote. I'm only sad he's not doing it in the NFL, only because obviously we pay so much attention on the NFL level. I don't get to watch college as much unless it's, of course, the Cougars, BYU Cougars. And now that I'm in Columbus, there's a bit of OSU on the TV here.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I would have liked him in the NFL because this dude might be the most entertaining guy on television at this. Now that he's going to go on, he's going to give everybody a run for the money.
I expect him to be on the fast track when his career starts. This dude, he was a college legend too. I mean, you think about what he did. A Heisman Trophy winner, national champion with Bama. Then he goes on to the NFL. He's a three-time NFL Pro Bowler. Obviously he was he was an integral member of a team that broke all kinds of rushing records in 2019 with the Ravens. And when I think of big truz, this classic phrase that's become a Lamarism, you can't think about that phrase, whether it has two Z's or two S's at the end, Sarah. I don't care, without thinking about Mark Ingram, because he had a pulse for that city, for Baltimore in 2019, and I'll never forget it. It was my first year covering the team. That phrase was everywhere. It was quite literally sketched into every single building, every single. I remember driving up I-83, and this like construction site literally sketched in big truss into like a big dirt pile and lit it up at night. Like, it was incredible. He took this city on a run, unlike any other. And the way that I think probably what's most memorable is the way that he talked up Lamar and gassed
Yeah.
up Lamar en route to a unanimous MVP honor, I think is what really resonates with people in Ravens flock. And of course, you can't talk about him talking him up without this classic clip.
The MVP front runner. If anybody else got to say something different about that, then come see me. I'm right here in Bmore outside the bank. If you got an issue with that, come see me. I'm about that. Big trust. Woo woo. Lamar Jackson in the flesh. Yes, sir. Big trust.
I'm with you.
New Era 8 apparel.
Click, shout out. Hey, this man funny.
Lamar, how are you going to downplay MVP talk when you get in?
Hey, Bobby, look, I'm sporting the same shirt from that 2019 season. You got to wear it when you're working out. Apologies for my workout gear tonight. But yeah, bring that personality to TV, please. I mean, he was made to be on TV. It's going to be a blast watching him. And it is funny because, as you said, perhaps the most memorable is how he gassed up Lamar. Gassed up, I don't know. Gassed up almost seems like he doesn't deserve it. I don't know. Hyped up his teammate. But let's not forget, he was pretty outstanding himself. He rushed for over 1,000 yards. And together with Lamar and other people from that offense, put up a historic rushing year. Absolutely historic. He will be remembered for that always.
Oh yeah. So be on the lookout. Fox Sports big noon kickoff is like kind of their signature Saturday program. So be on the lookout for that. And I think one of the most low key funny parts of that video that we just shared, the clip at the podium, is Matt Judon in the back going like whoop whoop, yup, like just making all these noises. Like that was really a cast of characters on that team. And I know a lot of people in that locker room felt like they had championship aspirations that were cut short. So I know some guys lose sleep over the fact that it ended so early in the divisional round, but Yeah, class act. Congratulations to Mark, one of my all-time favorites to cover, and it'll be good to see him on our TVs.
All right, should we move on to topic 2?
Yep.
All right, here we go. We're doing better, worse, or the same. Monday we did this for defense. Today we're doing it on offense. So we'll go through the roster on the offensive side, look at who the Ravens had last year, who they lost, and who they added, and then say if the roster is now better, worse, or the same.
All right. So we'll start with quarterback, obviously. Lamar, Tyler, and Anthony Brown. Tyler Huntley and Anthony Brown are the returnees. They have not lost anyone. Thank goodness. We thought for a good portion of the offseason that could be the case with number 8, but we know that he is under contract for the next 5 seasons. The additions, Josh Johnson for a second stint in Baltimore. He could compete for the backup position, primary backup position behind Lamar. Where do you think the position itself stands?
Well, I think because you have essentially the same top 3. I mean, like you said, Josh Johnson can be considered, competition or whatnot. So I guess essentially the same. What's funny, however, though, is because of the last 2 years that Lamar has gone down, and I have seen with Tyler Huntley that, the Ravens missed out on the playoffs the first time he came in. And then the second time they were like barely making it through when they had a great lead before Lamar went down. Even though it's the same, I think the roster is essentially the same. I feel less confident in the depth of it because of what we've seen from Tyler Huntley. And maybe in this next year he could get even better. So I don't want to. And if Lamar goes down and Tyler Huntley's in, you better believe we're all going to have his back, right? We're going to be rooting for him and all that. But I think that the Ravens showed that they're not entirely comfortable anymore with Tyler Huntley because over the offseason, they reportedly spoke with Jacoby Brissett, Baker Mayfield, and Tyler Heineke. So if they're out talking to try to, to 3 different guys, now all those guys are going to have a better chance starting elsewhere. So they signed elsewhere. So I don't know that they had much of a chance to upgrade. Most backup quarterbacks are going to be a big drop off from the starter. I don't even know that you have 32 true starting quarterbacks who are great. So it's the same, but I have less confidence only because now I've seen Tyler Huntley and what he does when Lamar goes down.
Yeah. No, they made it obvious this offseason for sure based on some of those moves. And just to be specific, Taylor Heineke is somebody they looked into as well. But let's shift gears to the running back position. Returnees, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, and then a couple fullbacks in Pat Ricard and Ben Mason. They did lose Kenyon Drake, who filled in at times in 2022, and then a couple additions in the form of undrafted rookies. That's Keaton Mitchell, who several people are high on, and Owen Wright. Better, worse, or the same?
Better because JK and Gus are now almost more than a season removed from their injuries. Yeah, almost 2 seasons at this point. So I think you can go into the season, especially with JK after, what we saw from him at the end of last season after his second kind of surgery or cleanup. So I say it's better. But I still think that the Ravens will sign a couple of guys. There's no way J.K. Dobbins or Gus Edwards is going to be playing in the preseason. So even though the Ravens lost Drake, I actually think he's a guy that they might re-sign heading into training camp. I guess they could sign somebody else, but I don't see like a Dalvin Cook or Ezekiel Elliott or Leonard Fournette. I think those guys are going to be looking for a top running back going down during training camp and hoping to get in a position where they can for sure start and get a lot of carries, which would not happen on this roster. So I do think that, they'll end up re-signing Kenyon Drake, but better because they're healthier.
Yeah, I would agree with the latter there. Let's have some fun with this one. Wide receiver. I think the only reason we're going to even mention wide receiver is because there's a lot of tallying that needs to be done because there was so much change. Okay. Returnees. Rashad Bateman, Devin Duvernay, Tylan Wallace, James Prochet, Tariq Black, Andy Isabella, Shamar Bridges, and Mike Thomas. Not all are guaranteed, obviously, to make the 53-man. They've lost Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson, and they've added, count them, Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar, Laquan Treadwell, Dante Demas, and Sean Ryan. The final two were undrafted rookies. Better, worse, or the same?
I feel like we're going from like McDonald's to Ruth's Chris here. Like it's like I don't know what other analogies to give it. I mean, it's much, much better. First of all, when you brought up Robinson, it just made me think back to how many episodes we've done where we're like, does Robinson know something that we don't? Is he coming back? He was trying. I appreciate the effort. You know that he saw something. He sees something special in this roster. He wanted to come back. We wish him well. But I mean, just looking at the top four: Beckham, Flowers, Bateman, and Aguilar, all first-round picks, versus the top four last year: Robinson, Watkins, Duvernay, and Prochet. It's you don't even compare the two. I mean, what's funny is I don't even know that this is like, I don't know where I need to look at the other wide receivers and where this compares to other wide receiver groups. I'm sure it's not like, better than I don't know. Could they be top 10? I don't know. I need to go look at other rosters, but I mean, this is vastly better. I am so excited for Lamar Jackson. I'm so excited that he looks, as we saw in the first segment, like he's got chemistry with these guys already. I am just so excited to see what he can do with the level of talent, the upgrade that he has. And again, this isn't the best wide receiver group in the NFL, but for how much Lamar can do and this running game can do, I'm just ridiculously excited to see what this passing game is going to look like.
I wish I counted how many times you said excited throughout that answer, but yeah.
Can you tell I'm excited?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think there's nothing else needs to be said. The excitement's through the roof, and it should be because he finally has some a lot at his disposal. We'll see if it translates. On to the tight end position. They're returning Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Charlie Kohler. They've lost Nick Boyle and Josh Oliver to the Vikings. Nick is attempting to transition to extend his career to long snapper. So we'll see. And I thought Nick Moore, it's funny, we keep going back to this Nick Moore interview that we did recently, Ravens long snapper. And I just thought he gave so many insightful answers, including sort of how he inspired Nick. And he said he did so humbly. He said so humbly to kind of, check out and try and build on potentially long snapping to stay in the NFL. So obviously we wish Nick the best. One addition in this room, and that's Travis Vokalek. So better, worse, or the same?
I'm going to say slightly better because I think Isaiah Likely in year 2 will be even that much better. Charlie Kohler didn't really get to play last year because of injury. Now maybe, I don't know. I think maybe slightly better, close to the same, but slightly better.
I can't argue with that because I think a lot of folks, Kadri's leading the charge here, but a lot of folks think very highly of Charlie Kohler because he's a big body. He's a reliable pass catcher. We saw slight little flashes towards the end of the season. And actually, for his size, he's pretty nimble. So, and he kind of bounces off tackles like Mark Andrews does in the middle of the field. So, I'm going to go with that as well. Obviously, Isaiah, you're expecting a heftier load for him in year 2, and Mark's Mark. So, I'm with you there.
I will say maybe I'm discounting Josh Oliver. I do think he had a pretty good year, but I don't think it's not like Isaiah Likely or Charlie Kohler couldn't do what he did.
Josh was awesome doing those little things that don't show up in the box score. He's a tough dude, and he got paid, and good for him. He's off to Minnesota. We'll finish things up here in topic 2 with the offensive line. They're going to return the likes of Ronnie Stanley, Tyler Linderbaum, Kevin Zeitler, Morgan Moses, Patrick McCary, John Simpson, Daniel Falele, Ben Cleveland, and David Sharp. The biggest free agency loss, because he just quite frankly priced his way out of Baltimore, was Ben Powers leaving for Denver. Tristan Colon left for the Jets, and Jawan James is no longer on this team as of right now. The additions: Big Sala, the rookie tackle out of Oregon. Andrew Voorhees, who's going to have a redshirt year recovering from, I believe, an ACL tear. Sam Mustipher, adept at center, coming over from Chicago. Deshaun Manning, Tykeem Doss, Jake Gadone, Brandon Kipper, and Jalen Thomas. So better, worse, or the same?
Yeah, well, I initially was going to say a little bit worse, even though, by the way, I think this group is going to be solid. I think it's going to be a solid, solid offensive line for Lamar Jackson. And so when you lose somebody like Ben Powers and you aren't quite sure who's going to replace him, that automatically wants you to say, perhaps a little bit worse. Um, but to me, and maybe I'm discounting Ben Powers. I do think he was consistent, and I do think he was solid. Like, he just was consistent. I just felt like we didn't have to call his name much. I do still think that he is replaceable. I don't feel like he's like this Pro Bowler that it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? You're kind of between Ronnie Stanley there and Tyler Linderbaum, who's going to be going into his second year. So between John Simpson and Sala, and maybe if worse comes to worse, Patrick McCary, I feel like they're going to be, I feel like I want to say same.
Yeah.
And the
I'm
same
with
is
you.
really good.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think the same for me relies in, or basically lies in my confidence for Joe D'Alessandris, who's the longtime offensive line coach. I think he is as good as it gets, and he makes these dudes, he develops these dudes into second contract guys. And that's exactly what he did with Ben Powers. So, regardless of who it ends up being, at left guard, Sala, Simpson, perhaps McCary, perhaps even I don't know where Ben Cleveland is right now. That'll be a very compelling
I
thing to
forgot
watch
to
right out of the
mention him.
camp.
My bad.
You gotta keep him in mind. I mean, I think a lot of people are down on him right now within the fan base just because he hasn't gone and snatched it. And obviously last year he didn't show up in shape. Or I mean, that's kind of a exaggerated. I mean, he didn't pass the conditioning test for the
Which is
first couple
brutal.
tries, and then it is brutal. But that ended up, he got a late start, and Ben Powers came in and capitalized it and never looked back. So, anyway, long story short, I think they're the same because of the consistency aside from left guard and what Joe D'Alessandris means to this group. And I think it's going to be plug and play at left guard this season.
Nice. All right. Third and final topic. We got a couple quick hits afterwards, so we won't go too long on this. But I had seen this is again while we were gone, and so maybe some of you have seen this. So speak for yourself. Did a segment. It didn't ask the question like what's the strongest division in football. I noticed. I thought it's what they originally said, but they just asked tougher division, and then they compared AFC North or AFC East. But after looking at all the divisions, I think that may have been the conversation, like which one of these are the best in the NFL, because they're both really good. So we'll first let Joy speak on it, who's always articulate and passionate. She makes some good points, and then we'll comment afterwards.
I don't even think this is a conversation. And I would put the AFC West above the AFC East before I even got to the AFC North, which I think is the toughest division in football. Top to bottom, that's why I say this. The top of the division may not be as high, but the bottom isn't as low. So let's just start with the coaches. You have 2 Super Bowl winning coaches in this division. The other coach has been to a Super Bowl and an AFC championship game. The other coach is a former coach of the year 3-4 years ago. You have better quarterbacks top to bottom. The worst quarterback in this division is Kenny Pickett. You think he's going to take a step up this year. I think he will also. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. Top to bottom, you have 2 of the best young quarterbacks, a former MVP. Joe Burrow just played in the Super Bowl, went back to AFC championship game. Deshaun Watson is playing in this division. Don't even get me started on the defensive side of the ball for all of these teams. The running games for all of these teams. I just don't really know how you can argue. You have legacy winning organizations. The bottom of the AFC East is too low for me to compare it to the AFC North.
Okay. That's compelling stuff. I mean, this There's no doubt that the AFC North is going to be a juggernaut for years to come. It's just a matter of, am I comfortable right now in to me, she seems to be focusing in on the AFC East. I'm more so focusing on the AFC West as like
Well,
the
but that's the thing is like the question was set up between the two, and she had said in there I would actually put AFC West above
okay,
AFC East. Yeah.
I gotcha.
So, but to that, I disagree with you. I put AFC East above AFC West. I know Joy agrees with you though.
Oof. We'll see. I mean, it, the jury's still out on what the Jets will become with a Super Bowl champion and multi-year MVP taking over under center duties. I just think about what the AFC West has. I mean, we obviously know what Kansas City is. We know that the Chargers are always going to be, as long as Justin Herbert's there, they're going to be a respectable, competitive team. I don't know if they're capable of taking the next step. They seem. When's the last time they've done that? I mean, it's been a long time, like Philip Rivers' early years. You can't forget about Jimmy Garoppolo. The guy is a winner, and now he's in Vegas, and Denver's made a ridiculous amount of moves this offseason, including bringing in another winner as the head coach in Sean Payton. So I'm gonna go with, I have the AFC West over the AFC East for right now. Um,
Above
but
AFC
the
North?
AFC North, well, no, I'm saying just between the West and the East, I'm gonna take the West. And I think, for now, the AFC North is looking like the top division in this conference.
Yeah, and I looked at the NFC. I mean, I'd say in the whole NFC out of the whole NFL, I think the AFC is obviously the stronger conference. Um, yeah, here's the thing: the AFC East. Here's what I don't know is the I look at the Jets and I'm like, it's just a historically losing organization. Can Aaron Rodgers help them overcome that? Aaron Rodgers was with the Green Bay Packers, and they haven't been like this juggernaut the last couple of years, at least, where you're just totally frightened of them, like the way you are the Chiefs or the Bengals or the Bills or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers lifts the Jets, then all of a sudden, then the AFC is ridiculous. Like Buffalo Bills, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. Patriots just haven't been much since the departure of Tom Brady, but you could say the same thing about the Steelers. So I don't know. She said it wasn't much of a conversation. I think it is a conversation to me between these two. That being said, the Bengals plus the Ravens, like she said, legacy. Steelers haven't had a losing season ever under Mike Tomlin. I don't know what to make of the Browns just yet. We'll see what she seemed to put a lot of stock into Watson. I don't know yet. He did not look good last year. But either way, I mean, this is a brutal division. If not the best, to me, maybe second best, as you've said. So let's just remember the Ravens' schedule to start off. The Ravens' schedule has all three of their AFC North rivals on the road, done by week 5. So if the Ravens aren't coming out beating all these guys, let's just remember that we're talking about the division that very well might be the best in the NFL. So if they came away winning 2 of those 3, I would be ecstatic. Even one of the 3, it's not like I'm not going to be happy about that, but I'm not going to be losing sleep because they were all on the road against perhaps the best division in football. So wherever you rank it, number 1, 2, maybe for some number 3, it's going to be a brutal year. And I'm glad the Ravens have the roster that they do because they're going to need everybody to step up. And I hope that injuries are under control this year because it's going to be a brutal season.
Just get the 10 wins. Just get the
10
10
wins.
wins, which is, I know it's easier said than done, but the amount of parity in this conference, and specifically in the North and the East divisions, ooh boy, it's going to be awesome, awesome, awesome football. Hopefully this fall. So that is that. Let's finish up with a few quick hits, Sarah. And I know that both of this crossed both of our desks. on Monday, and it was I mean, you know, the time of year that it is, this type of stuff. I guess it kind of triggers reactions and whatnot, but we figured we give ours just because it was sent to us. Bleacher Report is proposing that the Ravens send Patrick Queen and a fourth rounder to Washington for Chase Young, and that is in their latest mock trade because it's that time of year. What was your reaction?
I don't know. It all depends on what you believe Chase Young is going to be. Obviously, he's been injured. I don't know. I don't see him in practice. He was rookie of the year, I believe. But do you know what year of his rookie contract he's in? How many years are left? Because that
Gosh,
might
I think he's been around for what
2020,
three
2021,
seasons now,
22.
maybe
So maybe you're getting him for
coming
1
up.
year. Maybe if you exercise the fifth year option, you get him for two, maybe. So it's 1 year of him versus 1 year of Patrick Queen. Plus, if you don't get him, I still believe they're going to sign Houston. Houston, if they use the unrestricted tender on him, which they could, I don't know if they have or if it's past deadline, but he earned 3.5 million last year. I think he'd be around 4 million this year, plus a fourth rounder without knowing who Chase Young is going to be. I might stick with what I've got. What about you?
The upside and the potential is what gets you thinking about it, you know. And
Yeah.
he was, to your point, in 2020, he was defensive rookie of the year. Since then, he's only played in 12 games since then. So that right there is enough for me to, again, with all due respect to the upside and the potential and the explosiveness and everything he was his rookie year, I'm not sure if I'm, giving up a, who we feel plays like a, bona fide top 10 linebacker alongside, you know, one of, if not the best linebackers in all of football, but also, fourth round draft capital for somewhat of a question mark. Again, I know that I feel like question mark is a little severe. Like there's some unpredictability there. There's some risk there. So I'm not willing to really entertain that. But second quick hit has to do with the aforementioned. I guess I didn't even say his name, but when I say one of the top linebackers in the league, of course, I'm talking about Roquan Smith. And in a poll that was put together by ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, that basically got opinions from executives, coaches, and players. It looks like the the ranking that Roquan received entering the 2023 season in terms of off-ball linebackers is number 2 league wide. What do you think?
Well, I don't care about these polls. I think he's like the best linebacker in football. But what I did like and I agreed with is there was an NFL coordinator. I don't know if he was offensive or defensive, but he told Jeremy, quote, I can't believe the Bears let him out of their building. He's a stud. He's everything a linebacker is supposed to be. Doesn't have a weakness. Intelligence, versatility, consistent tackler plus athleticism. Yeah, I still can't believe Chicago let him out of the building, but hey, I'm happy they did.
Yeah, and just I actually found a tweet from last year's. I think it's the same poll done by ESPN, and Roquan had himself a nice little jump. So last year he was 5 in this poll, top
Mhm.
5, and now he's top 2. So nice little jump for a guy who obviously gave the Ravens a nice little spark a year ago for sure in the middle part of their defense. We'll finish things up with the most expensive wide receiver rooms in 2023. This is put together by Sharp Football, Warren Sharp. We quote and cite a lot of his stuff here on the vault, and figured this would be kind of interesting as well, just being that the Ravens were super active this offseason as we've documented, but you wouldn't necessarily know it just based in on spending. Leading this list is Denver at 44 million. That's the most expensive wide receiver room in 2023. Vegas and Tampa are right below uh, the Broncos at 43 million each. The Ravens fall, and by the way, the bottom of the list is Green Bay at 10 million, just to give you an idea of where this range is. The Ravens, let's see, they are with Kansas City, kind of right around the middle
Number
part of
20.
this, roughly 20th overall at
Or
24 million. You
yeah,
surprised?
tied at 20. Bobby, this is a big step up for the Ravens.
Yeah.
Like you're saying that you wouldn't know it, but you do know it if you know the bet. We've done episodes on this. We've done
Oh,
episodes
you
on
know
this.
it all right.
Yeah, yeah. Last year the Ravens ranked number 32. So to jump up 12 spots, you would know it if you were like, you knew these rankings. The Ravens definitely spent at a characteristic. They were 32 last year, 21, so only one up from this year. But before that, 29, 27, 27, 17. That's their biggest one. 20, 27, 29, 26. Okay. So I've argued for so long that, you know, a balanced football team does not need to be number one. A balanced offense doesn't need to be number one, but I've always wanted them closer to the league average. And this is getting close to it. This is getting close to being there. And so we're going to see what kind of effect it has on the passing game. I think it'll have a pretty significant one.
Yes, we are. And we have really, you're so right. You would know it because we've literally done deep dives on those numbers. And I know you specifically, you've gone back years and years and
Yeah.
run those numbers. So yeah, you know those numbers like the back of your hand. So before we jump, just wanted to shout out, as always, two of our returning patrons. They're supporting both of us and our channel and our audio only initiative here on the Vault on a monthly basis. We want to thank Alan J. and Chris Gagnon for their support. We appreciate you both. And if you guys are interested, anybody out there is interested in doing the same, you can check out what we're offering on Patreon by visiting patreon.com/Ravens Vault podcast. What 2 weeks out. Let's see here. Little over 2 weeks out from the start of 2023 Ravens training camp. I'm excited to finally get you in Baltimore. We're gonna meet. Hopefully, we'll have some news for plans in place and potentially some folks to come on out and catch a live show. But can't wait. Cannot wait.
It's going to be a blast.
All right. For my partner, Sarah Ellison, I am logging off. I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Tuesday morning Vault edition here on the Vault. Thanks so much for being with us. As always, you can hit us up by email at BaltimoreRavensVault@gmail.com. We'd always love to hear feedback. We've been getting a lot of it. We've been reading every single email, every single tweet about this new format. We want to hear from you because we really care, and we're definitely going to implement it and make adjustments as needed. So we will talk to you on Wednesday. Thanks so much for the support.